Is the Big Ten looking to cut a deal with Amazon? Are they looking to add Washington, Oregon, California, and Stanford to the league? Pull up a chair, sit back, relax, and let's talk about it live. What's up, college sports fans, fellow members of Mountaineer Nation? This is Coos, and welcome in to tonight's college football happy hour live stream. As you can see, I'm not in my studio. I'm traveling tonight for work. I'm sitting in a hotel room in Johnson City, Tennessee. Coming to you live tonight. Just thought I'd jump on here for a few minutes, talk about some of the news that's come out today regarding potential Big Ten expansion, how that could affect the Big 12. Talk a little bit about what's going on at Arizona State with Herm Edwards, and also talk about some news that's come out regarding college football playoff expansion negotiations. So let's jump in real quick. First, let's start off with the news about the Big Ten. Looks like Kevin Warren is looking to strike a deal with Amazon. This is according to a report from Dennis Dodd, or by Dennis Dodd from CBS Sports. Kevin Warren's wanting to cut a deal with Amazon, get them involved in their TV deal. As part of that deal, he could be looking to bring in the four Pac-12 schools that's been mentioned multiple times: Oregon, Washington, Stanford, and Cal. This report, I'll link to it once this live is over. I'll link to it in the description box for those who want to go back and look at it after the fact. But according to the report, there are several presidents who may not be on board with expanding. There's also some questions as to whether or not Amazon would be interested, and if Amazon would be worthwhile to partner up with, because Amazon tried to be involved in the original TV deal that the Big Ten just signed with Fox, NBC, and CBS, and reports are saying that Amazon actually offered more money than what NBC and CBS offered. But because they were worried about the amount of exposure or the limited amount of exposure they might get through Amazon by them being strictly a streaming service, the Big Ten decided to go with networks versus going with uh, a streaming service strictly. So that's where we are with that. I've seen some chatter online about whether or not it makes sense. I don't see why not. I mean, the one caveat though that it does mention is Amazon would basically be stuck with. I don't want to use the word bottom feeders, but the less popular teams from the Big Ten. They'd be stuck with, Northwestern, Minnesota, maybe Rutgers, Maryland. Those teams, they would not be able to get any games from with Ohio State, Michigan, Wisconsin, or Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, or Michigan State. In my understanding, based according to this article. So would they be willing to pay enough money? According to the article, the presidents would only be willing to expand if the teams bring around $100 million more to the TV deal. Can they do that? I don't know, but it's possible, and here's why I think that's possible. Like I mentioned earlier, if Amazon offered more to the Big Ten than NBC and CBS, and that means they would have offered more than $350 million, which is what they ended up signing for with NBC and CBS and that's only for one game a week on each network. So 350 million divided by 16 teams, because that's what the Big Ten will have when this new contract begins. That comes out to about $27 million per team, 27 and change. We times that by 4, which is the 4 Pac-12 schools are looking at. That brings the total up to about 87.2 million, something like that, ballpark in value that they're bringing, or that Amazon would be paying if you equate it to what they offered previously. That doesn't get you to the 100 million, but Amazon, from what I've heard, is paying a lot of money to get these Thursday night NFL games. So maybe Amazon's willing to pay a lot of money for this college football. They might be willing to pay a lot of money to get involved with the Big Ten, even if they don't get the major programs. Maybe they're still willing to pay it. Who knows? We'll see. If they can, pay the 100 million, or pay them to at least equate that 100 million or more. maybe they decide to bring in Oregon, Washington, Stanford, and Cal. It's going to be interesting to see how this all shakes out. Now, how will that impact the Big 12? Well, according to this report, we've all been hearing Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, Utah to the Big 12. That's been the rumor ever since the UCLA USC news broke, right? Well, apparently that's still on the table, and that is what would probably take place, according to a source that Dennis Dodd has from the Big 12. They're saying that if those four schools decide to go to the Big 10, it would basically be the end of the Pac-12. It would basically end it, dissolve this uh, whatever the word is. The Pac-12 would be dead essentially. So that means those four schools would then likely go to the Big 12 because they probably wouldn't have another option. That would leave Oregon State and Washington State kind of hanging in limbo. And according to Dennis Dodd sources, those schools would then join the Mountain West Conference. So it's not good for them, and I would hate it for them. But unfortunately, that's just the way where we are in today's landscape. What do I think about it as a West Virginia fan who's in the Big 12? Well, I wouldn't be super excited about it because I don't really want, West Virginia traveling even further west to play teams like Arizona, Arizona State. That doesn't really excite me that much, to be perfectly honest with you, as a West Virginia fan. However, if it means the Big 12 is more stable going forward, if it means it'll make us more money, then, I'm on board with it. But just to be honest with you, the only one of those four teams that really excite me at all would be playing Utah. Would be pretty interesting because I know they're a very high quality brand. They play some good football there in Utah, so that would be interesting, and it would be fun to watch Utah and BYU be in the same league. But uh, playing Utah doesn't really excite me that much, to be uh, honest with you. Provo Cougar fan, thanks for hopping on here. He says should add Memphis rather than Colorado, and they don't want to be in the Big 12. They think they are too good for the Big 12. Let them end up in the Mountain West Conference. Yeah, I think they would change their mind though if they saw they were going to be stuck. I'm sure they would rather be making 35, 40 million a year in the Big 12 than 10 or less in the Mountain West, because that's probably what you'd probably be looking at a 25, 30, maybe even $40 million gap in TV revenue between the Big 12, which would for all intents and purposes remain a Power Five conference, versus being in a Group of Five conference like the Mountain West. So I think they would probably have to humble themselves and join the league, and it would give the Big 12 the Denver market, which would be according to the quote unquote experts, is a good thing. Obviously, we know right now Colorado's football program is terrible. Arizona's football program is terrible. We see what's going on in Arizona State. I mean, I, this move, like I said, it doesn't excite me, but if it helps the Big 12, then that means it will help West Virginia, which means I'd be on board with it. Uh, just wouldn't really watching those games on Saturdays would not really be any more exciting than. Matter of fact, it would probably be less exciting than what we're dealing with now, playing playing the Big 12 schedule that we're playing, which I actually like, by the way. I think it's exciting football. This season shaping up to be a great season in the Big 12. A lot of parity, a lot of good teams. Anybody can beat anybody on any given weekend. It's gonna be fun. By the way, guys, I apologize for the lighting here. Uh, I'm in this hotel. I've got every light in this hotel room on, and it's still not very good. But this is the best I can do at the moment. I'm sure you guys understand. Uh, the other topic I want to touch on real quick uh, is, and by the way, this is probably going to be a somewhat of a short live stream, because when I'm done, I'm going to ask you guys some a network that I'm fortunate to be a part of called Coast to Coast Kickoff. It's a brand new network. We're trying to see if we can get off the ground and grow. Some of my network partners are going to be doing a live stream here at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So I'm going to put the link to that live stream here in the comment box here in a minute. But first, obviously I want you guys to hang with me until then, obviously. But what's up, Ferris? Thanks for hopping on here, man. But Ty Hayes from Around the Table Sports, Kevin Jones from Coach One Sports with Kevin Bull Jones, and Justin Riley with the Bama Standard are all going to be on this live stream tonight. John Waffle, H2P, what's up, man? Commentary alignment is on hold right now. It is right now, but I was just telling them about the news that I read today from Dennis Dodd about the big Kevin Warren apparently is still trying to add 4 more schools from the Pac-12. Whether it happens or not, we'll see. But it was in the news today, so I feel like it is worthy to talk about. I don't think Dennis Dodd would be reporting it if there was nothing to it. He's a respected journalist, even though I don't agree with everything he's written. He is a respected journalist, and he's not going to. I don't think he's going to report on something that he doesn't feel comfortable with from his reliable sources. The Herm Edwards situation, man, it has. I don't know if you guys have been following this, but it is absolutely insane. I'm going to read you. There was an article, I think it may have been on Yahoo, maybe, that wrote it. I'm going to find it here for you guys on my phone. And just kind of, as I'm talking here, just kind of tell you what it said. But basically, oh, shoot, what did I do with that article? Why am I having such a hard time finding it? Oh, there it is. Report suggests Arizona State staffers leaked info to opponents to get Coach Herm Edwards fired. Basically, in a nutshell, this article says that staff members who worked for Arizona State under Coach Herm Edwards were giving away basically game planning information or insider information to opponents in order to undermine Coach Edwards and get him fired. And the reason for that, and here's a quote, it says, an opposing coach recently told The Athletic that it wasn't hard to get intel on this season's team because some within Arizona State athletics wanted a coaching change. So it basically says that the writer for The Athletic noted that Edwards did not make an effort to get familiar with the bylaws of the NCAA and made staff members of the department feel like he needed to be constantly looked after. So basically, Herm Edwards, who came from the NFL, this is how I interpret this. Herm Edwards, who came from the NFL to coach college football, did not take time to read the bylaws, the NCAA bylaws, to find out what are the rules here? What kind of rules do I need to abide by? What are the what do I need to avoid in recruiting? What can I do? What can I not do? Apparently, he didn't read the handbook, and I guess he just went out and did whatever the heck he wanted to do. Sounds like got players in during COVID restrictions when he wasn't supposed to, which is what they ultimately ended up getting in trouble for. And I guess his staffers were constantly trying to prevent him from doing things like that to get in more trouble. And I guess they basically got tired of babysitting, is what it sounds like. So I've never heard of anything like this taking place in college football. If you guys can think of something, let me know in the comments. But staff members actually undermining the head coach, trying to get him fired. I mean, how crazy how crazy is that, man? That's just nuts. So I don't really, if that's the case, I don't really feel bad for Herm Edwards because he should have known better. He should have been smart enough and mature enough to know that college football, you have to recruit. It's not like the NFL where you're drafting to get people. You have to recruit. There's bylaws you have to abide by. There's rules you have to abide by. And if you don't abide by those rules, then problems are going to arise from that. And apparently, Herm Edwards didn't care, or just didn't take the time to learn, or maybe he didn't think he would get caught. I don't know, but whatever it was, apparently his staff members, assuming this report is true, his staff members were fed up with it, and they were like, "We got to get him out of here." So they started giving away information to their opponents so that they would lose. Think about that. I mean, it's not. I don't agree with those staffers doing that. It's wrong for them to do that. To undermine your employer like that. But at the same time, Herm Edwards is also at fault here, in my opinion, for being negligent and not paying attention and abiding by the rules. We've got K. Dew on here. If that is the case, then not only did those assistants undercut Edwards, they also put their players at an increased risk. That's a great point. I didn't think about the injury aspect, K. Dew. They put players at risk by giving away their game plans and whatnot potentially. So uh, that's definitely something to think about. That's something I had not thought about. So I definitely, like I said, it's not right to undercut your employer like that. I don't agree with that. It's not the right thing to do. But at the same time, Herm Edwards, I think, also has some accountability here, and I think those staffers should also be fired for what they did. Um, if they haven't already been, of course, since they were staffers of Herm Edwards, they may be fired anyway. They may have been kicked out the door with him, but nonetheless, apparently it just shows what kind of shambles the Arizona State program's in right now, and another reason I'm not excited about potentially getting them into the Big 12. And then last but not least, the topic I wanted to talk about was the conference commissioners and Jack Swarbrick, the AD at Notre Dame, are meeting to discuss college football playoff expansion. We all know the news has already come out. They are going to expand the college football playoff by 2026 at the earliest. I'm sorry, at the latest. They're hoping to do it before then. However, there's a lot of hurdles they need to get through and a lot of logistics that need to be worked out to make it happen before 2026. Uh, in an article that came out, Ross Dellinger wrote an article on SI.com today talking about some of this. And one of the things it talked about was how the playoff looks, meaning, when it starts, when it ends, when the games were played, all that stuff will look different. If they're able to get it done before 2026, it will look different the first 2 years than it will from 2026 and beyond, because from 2026 and beyond, they'll be under a brand new contract, so they can do it basically however they want, and they won't need unanimous vote to make it happen. But 24 and 25, A, they have to have unanimous vote from everybody, and B, there's just not enough time to work out all the logistics. So one thing Nicole Auerbach tweeted out today, one of the things that she mentioned, and it was also in Ross's article, I think, was there's no way that they can, because one of the things that's been discussed is, basically starting the season at week 0. Remember this year we had the week 0? Well, they would have everybody starting that week. Well, apparently that's out of the question in 24 and 25. So, which means the quarterfinals of the CFP would be played the week that New Year's Day bowl games are played. So basically, or the CFP finals played now. The week that the CFP championship is played now would be the week that I don't want to get this wrong, so let me read it to you. I don't want to misquote what Nicole's tweet said. She said, Bill Hancock, who's the chairman of the CFP committee, said, or the chairman of college football playoff, not the committee. He's actually the CEO or the chairman, whatever, of the college football playoff. He said moving up the season to start week 0 is off the table for 2024 and 2025. So that means CFP quarterfinals would be the games around New Year's, not semifinals, if they can get this done earlier than 2026. So yeah, right around New Year's they'd be playing the quarterfinals of the college football playoff if they expand to 12 teams in 24 or 25. If it's 26 or beyond, then they might be able to move it back earlier, but that has to be worked out. And apparently that's off the table if they do it in 24, 25. I guess they just don't have the time. Too many moving parts, too many games to reschedule, too many as far as bowl games and whatnot. Because, the bowls, they've got to get the bowls involved in this too. There's a lot of people that's going to have to come to the table and be involved in these decisions and to make the logistics work to get these CFP expanded and get it started earlier than 2026. Ask each one of you, please hit the like button real quick. Draw more eyeballs to this live stream. Help me get it promoted. The Mad Tea Sipper says, Coos, are you as delusional as GBD? I don't think so. I don't know that he's delusional. He just has some. He has a wild imagination, man. I wouldn't call him delusional. I should consider GBD a friend, so I'm not going to say anything negative about him. But But I appreciate you being on here, Matt T. Sipper. You're welcome to express your thoughts and opinions. And I've seen you on some other live streams, and I know that you like to mess around. So it's all good. But yeah, and obviously, I'll let you guys take the conversation where you want to go. Let me know in the comments. I didn't have a whole lot to talk about tonight. Just want to jump on here real quick and kind of share these brief storylines. There's a lot going on in college football. Obviously, some really good games this weekend. You've got Oklahoma State and Baylor playing this weekend. Matt T. Silver says 165 coverage alignment videos. Well, I've done my fair share too, but not quite that many. Uh, not quite that many. He's definitely the conference realignment guy, that's for sure. Um, but no, Oklahoma State Baylor is going to be a great game. Obviously, the West Virginia Texas game I'm looking forward to. Um, Silas, thanks for jumping on here. Silas, he says Okie State will win that. I think it'll be a good game. I really do. I think it's at Okie State, isn't it? I need to look at the schedule here real quick while we're talking. But yeah, I think it's at Okie State. The last I checked. Look at the Big 12 schedule here on the handy dandy ESPN app. No, it's actually at Baylor. It's at Baylor, so Baylor will have home field advantage. The game's Saturday at 3:30 p.m. on Fox. So if you're getting tuned up for the West Virginia Texas game, you can tune into the Baylor Oklahoma State game, which is going to be on right before it. But it's going to be played on Fox. Baylor is -2 in the game, so Baylor's favored slightly. That's basically home field advantage. So it's basically a pick 'em game, you could say. With Baylor having the -2, they're basically getting that just for being home field. But it's going to be definitely going to be a good game. It could be anybody's game. I don't. I definitely expect it to be close. I think we've got a nice rivalry brewing here between Oklahoma State and Baylor. I think it's going to be interesting because Oklahoma State's got that high scoring offense that they've been able to put up a lot of points this year. And then you've got Baylor, whose strength is on the defensive side of the ball. So it'll be interesting to see which one of those teams are able to utilize their strength the best to overcome the other one's strength. K. Deuce says, don't care what the records and turmoil in teams like Colorado and Arizona State. The Big 12 have had their own set of issues, and Baylor and Kansas let them in. Yeah, I'm not saying no. I'm not saying not to let them in. I'm just saying, as a West Virginia fan, speaking from West Virginia's perspective, it doesn't excite me to play those teams. No, I have no issue letting them in. Um, I'm just speaking from a fan. What's up, Sippy? Sippy Sports Show's on here, guys. What's up, Sippy? Everybody go check out his channel if you want to hear about Mississippi State. I'm Mississippi State. Holy crap! Sorry, Sippy. If you want to hear about Southern Miss football, Sippy's your man. Go check out his channel. But he's very informative, but he's also very entertaining. So I encourage you to go check out his channel. Silas says, I'm interested to see how North Carolina State does. Yeah, that's another good one. North Carolina State and Clemson are playing this weekend. Sippy says, Southern Miss to the doggone top. There you go. That's his catchphrase, by the way. Christian says, wouldn't it be better for the West Virginia for the Pac to die? Because then if the ACC does actually decide to have an alliance with a conference, it would have to be the Big 12. I could see that. I could also see West Virginia getting in the ACC in other ways if it ever presents itself. Or I could see him staying in. I can also see him staying in the Big 12 as is if the Big 12 is able to stay afloat, which I think they will. But there's some that makes sense, Christian. I don't think it would be good for college football as a whole to see it die, though. To be honest, Sippy says Southern Miss is back. How dare you? I guess because I said Mississippi State. Colorado is a good program historically, though. This is about as low as they have. Yeah, you're true. That's true, Hummus, and I think they'll come back eventually. They're just in a down period right now. Something most programs go through at some point. Southern Miss versus WVU in bowl game. Hey, it's possible. Book it. Hey, no offense, Sippy. I hope we make a better bowl game than what you guys would be in. No offense. No offense. But we've got bigger aspirations. But hey, if they play, guess who will be there watching it? This guy right here. So But no, CB, in all honesty, man, I love your content, man. Uh, I love your spin on things. I love your personality, how you put your personality into what you do, and you know you're Southern Miss football. So if you're into Southern Miss football, or I think you guys are in Conference USA. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you're into Conference USA football or Sun Belt football, whatever it is you guys are in, it is Texas week, hummus. I can't keep track of the conferences anymore, Sippy. That they changed so doggone much. See, I said doggone. You got me saying doggone, Sippy. Hummus Hero says, "Is this Texas week?" It is Texas week. It's Texas Hate Week, as they say. Uh, and big game for us. Both teams are 2-2. Both teams' head coaches are sort of under some pressure to start winning. Both are 0-1 in the Big 12, so there's a kind of a lot riding on this game to be such an early. I think I called it a must win in my preview video, which I'm going to plug right now. Go check it out. It's up on my channel. I had Fanatic Perspective, who's a Texas fan, has his own YouTube channel. Had him on as a guest. Had him talk, answer some questions about Texas, kind of familiarize us with Texas a little bit. Let us know what we can expect to see this Saturday. But so please go check that video out. But yeah, we called it a must. He and I both said it was kind of a must-win game for both teams. Maybe that's a little strong, but it's darn near close to a must-win, in my opinion. Sippy says, I ran on the turf at Tulane. Silas says, Coos, will you be at the Baylor game, Thursday night game? I believe I'm going with a group from work. Yes, I will be, Silas. I've actually already have my tickets, man. I will be there, and I'm looking forward to it. Sippy says, got kicked out. Sunbelt now, first year. That's what I was thinking, Sippy. So I apologize for screwing that up the first time, but I ended up being right. Horns down week. That's right. Horns down, baby. Obviously, I did not do that on my preview show because I didn't want to disrespect my guest. But uh, think about this: when Colorado and Nebraska were in the Big 12, they were they were good. That was some good football. That was some real good. Matter of fact, doesn't Colorado have a national championship in like 1990, maybe somewhere along in there? K. Deuce says one thing is for sure: the Big 12 is the most wide open, fun conference in the country. Want to hear Country Roads after Saturday's game? I hope so, K. Do. Sure do, man. It'll be a big win for us. I will say this: obviously, you're a Jayhawk fan. That Kansas loss does not hurt near as bad now because Kansas looks like they're going to be pretty dang good, and they're probably going to beat a lot of teams this year, other than just us. I think Texas is really in time to kick them into the Big 12 cellar. Uh, And Earl Carr, thanks for coming on here, man. He's a BYU fan. Can't wait to welcome you and GBD out to Provo next year or 24. Man, I'd love to come to Provo. I don't get to many away games for obvious reasons. They're usually halfway across the country. I did go to the Pitt and Virginia Tech games because they were fairly close, especially Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech's actually only an hour from my house, so I was able to make that game. And Pitt's about 4 hours from my house, so I made that one. But obviously, for all obvious reasons, I don't make it to a lot of non-con or a lot of conference games. Maybe I'll be able to make it to Cincinnati. Mike could make it to UCF simply because I have a timeshare in Florida and have family down there. My timeshare is actually, which by the way, side note, don't ever buy a timeshare, man. One of the biggest money rackets going. I don't recommend it. Uh, that's just Kuz's tip of the day. But I'm stuck with it, so I try to use it when I can. But it's deeded in Orlando, so heck, maybe one of these days I'll make it to the bounce house to see a game. Uh, but I would love to see Provo, Earl. I've seen pictures of the stadium. It looks gorgeous, man, with the mountains behind it. And you guys, what's cool about it, even though we have mountains here in West Virginia, the mountains out there are totally different. Uh, you guys have the Rocky Mountains. We have the Appalachian Mountains, two totally different. Just the geography, the topography is totally different. So it'd be really cool to see a game out there. Hopefully, one of these days. I told my wife one of my bucket list items is to make it to every Big 12 stadium at some point in my life. Hummus Hero says, "Yep, Colorado has a split national championship. I think with Georgia Tech. Yep, I think you're right, Hummus." K. Zoo says, "Looks like all 5 conference games are interesting this weekend. Not sure why people think negative of the Big 12. I don't know, Kazoo. I don't think it's been that bad until now that because we're losing Texas and Oklahoma, who's basically, especially Oklahoma, who has basically carried the conference for the last several years. There's not really any hiding from that from a competitive standpoint, and there are two big money makers, so that's got people kind of looking down on us, I think. But I think we're going to prove some people wrong. I mean, if you look at our non-conference record, it's pretty darn good. Those guys are good salesmen. I've almost fallen for them timeshare scam. Yeah, man, we weren't going to do it, and then they come in and promise my wife a trip to Hawaii. Man, that was it. All it took. And we did get to go to Hawaii though, so it's not been a total waste because I wouldn't have went otherwise. Cody Parsons says, "What do you think about the job Dana's doing in Houston now? I think Dana is a terrible coach. It definitely doesn't look good. I've been intending to make a video on that, but just haven't got around to it yet. Probably be one of those YouTube shorts, one of those little 1 minute deals because there's not a lot to talk about. But looks like there's some locker room issues potentially at Houston, and you know, I don't want to say he's a terrible coach. I don't. I think, but I do think Houston overrated him. If that makes sense, I think he was overrated by the Houston leader. But I mean, I think the only reason he got that job was really his relationship with Tillman Fertitta, their big donor. Word on the street is they're personal friends, so I'm sure that didn't hurt his cause any at all. Uh, Kwoksu, I hope I got your name right. If I didn't, I apologize. The reason they were going was because they could recruit heavily in Texas, because they knew they would be playing the Texas school and families could watch them play easier. I'm not sure what you're talking about, Kwoksu, to be honest. So they could recruit heavily in Texas because they knew they would be playing the Texas school and families could watch. R Webb, thanks for the super chat, my friend. R Webb jumps on here, $5 super chat. Much appreciated, man. You give me your hard earned money just to hear me talk college football. BYU versus WVU for the King of the Mountain Trophy. Sponsored by Twin Peaks. LOL. That's funny. I like that idea. Hey, Brett Yormark's a marketer. Hey, R Webb, why don't you present that to B Yizzo and see if he likes it. For anybody who don't know what I mean by B Yizzo, uh, John Kurtz, a fellow podcaster, Kansas State fan, guy I've had the privilege of having on my show, a guy who I watch a lot, another Big 12 guy. Um, Obviously, he's a big Jay Z fan. And when Brett Yormark became the Big 12 commish, I think it was R. Webb went on a channel and said he's got a new nickname for Brett Yormark. It's B Yizzo, which kind of plays off of Jay Z lyrics. But I just thought that was hilarious, man. And John Kurtz has been trying to stay away from the B Izzo thing, and R. Webb won't let him. He just keeps bringing it up. Uh, Kurtz cracks me up sometimes. He's so serious, man. Static Fur. That's a cool name. Thanks for hopping on. I haven't seen you on here before. Future Big 12 pods West, Arizona, Arizona State, BYU, Utah, Texas. Texas is not in the conference. I'm assuming you meant Texas Tech or South. And then you got Texas Tech, Baylor, TCU, Houston East. The East would be West Virginia, Cincinnati, UCF, Iowa State. Central would be OK State, K State, Kansas, Colorado. I'm I don't know where Texas is not in the league. So I'm a little bit confused. But the rest of them make sense. But you threw Texas in there, and I'm not sure you meant to do that. Uh, Sippy's back. Had to take a call. Sippy Sports Show, y'all go check it out on YouTube. Static Fur. That didn't work as expected. Who wins? Southern Miss at Troy in 2 weeks. This week is a bye. Good question, Sippy. Uh, I got to do some quick research. I ain't gonna lie, man. I have not been keeping up with Southern Miss or Troy, either one. I do know Troy beat Marshall this past week, but it looks like Marshall may have been overrated. That win against Notre Dame may be a fluke, or maybe Notre Dame's just not very good. So I don't know if Marshall was as good as everybody thought. Uh, but that's still a good win nonetheless for Southern Miss. Let me pull up the Sun Belt schedule here. Week 6, you've got Southern Miss Troy, 2-2 versus 2-2. Looks like a good game. Southern Miss has beaten Liberty, or no, you lost to Liberty. Southern Miss lost to Liberty by 2 in overtime, 4 overtimes. Lost to Miami 30-7, beat Northwestern State 64-10, and then beat Tulane 27-24. Then you look at Troy's schedule so far. They lost to Ole Miss 28-10, beat Alabama A&M 38-17, lost to Appalachian State 32-28, so that was a close game, and then beat Marshall 16-7. So Marshall held them to 16 points. So based on this, based on the teams they've played, the scores, because that's really all I can go on because I've not actually watched them play, I'm going to say, Sippy, you're probably not going to like this, but I think Troy wins this game. I think Troy wins it by, I don't know what let me see if the spread's not been put on here yet, but ESPN's got Troy as a 55% chance to win, so I would go with the ESPN on this one and say Troy probably wins the game by a touchdown or a field goal. Man, Troy wins by a field goal. I think a field goal is a better number because I think Southern Miss will be competitive. Troy by a field goal. Sorry, Sippy. Static Fur Dana is good in my opinion. Dana's not a terrible coach, man. Dana's he's a genius play caller. I don't want to say genius, but he's a very, very good play caller. He is good. He does seem to hire a good staff. I was really happy with the staff he assembled here at West Virginia, at least there near the end. Originally, he didn't put out a good staff, but then he made changes, and he basically was. But you got to realize Dana was learning on the job. He had never been a head coach before, so. But the staff he assembled later on in his tenure here ended up being a really good staff. So he's good at that. But his game management came into question at times. Was not a very good recruiter, in my opinion. But he didn't do bad here. Quoc Sue says trying to type my phone is rearranging the wording. No worries, man. Todd Withrow, ever since Neil Brown turned WVU around, Coos, I don't see WVU firing Neil Brown. What do you think? You know what? I was talking to somebody today about this. I was, when we lost to Kansas, I was one of the many people hollering from the hilltops, fire Neil Brown. I didn't say fire him today, but I thought, man, there's no way we turn this season around. This season's going to be terrible. He's got to go. Well, lo and behold, Kansas ends up being pretty darn good, which didn't really help at first because you're thinking, well, wait a minute. But he turned Kansas around in 2 years. Neil's been here for 4. But if you sit back and look, some of our best players on this team, C.J. Donaldson, a star running back, true freshman, recruited by Neil Brown. You've got star center Zach Frazier, recruited by Neil Brown. Left tackle Wyatt Milam, a sophomore, recruited by Neil Brown. You've got wide receiver Caden Prather at wideout, who's coming on really well, recruited by Neil Brown. Jacoby Spells, the true freshman, had an interception last week, the pick 6, recruited by Neil Brown. Some of our most talented guys on this team were recruited by Neil Brown. And I worry that if you fire him, all that goes away. A lot of them would leave with him, so to speak. We lose some of the young talent on the team. We lose what progress has been made from a recruiting perspective. And also, Neil Brown talked about how in 2019, he and his staff made the decision because they come in, the offensive line, they knew they had a long road to hoe. They didn't have much depth, especially on the offensive line. So what they decided to do, instead of going out and getting a bunch of transfers, they said, okay, we're going to play this really young offensive line with a lot of freshmen, a lot of sophomores. They did have Colton McKivitz, who's now in the NFL, very good player. But other than that, they didn't have a whole lot of experience and or talent. So, but they decided to go with it and grow the offensive line organically with young guys. So we had 2 or 3 years of growing pains. Everybody's been complaining about the offensive line for the last 3 years. Now we know why. That's the route they chose to go. You can argue with that, say that was the wrong decision. However, guess who else did that? And Neil Brown talked about this. Kentucky. When he was the offensive coordinator at Kentucky before he took the head coaching job at Troy, that's what they did. And look where Kentucky is today. So Neil Brown was actually part of rebuilding the Kentucky program that is successful today because they decided to take the lumps, go through the growing pains early in order to have a more successful team down the road and grow long term and have more long term success by building depth with young talent up front. And it's paid off for Kentucky. So if it worked at Kentucky, why can't it work at West Virginia? That's what I'm thinking. So I have really slowed my roll on the fire Neil Brown. Now, if we finish with 3 or 4 wins this year, it's going to be hard not to fire him, in my opinion. But if we can win 6 games, 7 games, we need to keep him because I think the recruiting class he's got coming in next year may end up being one of our best ever. If it holds, we've got a lot of young talent on the team now. Like some of them are already contributing. Uh, you look at some of the older guys. I mean, you can't tell me Bryce Young hasn't or Bryce Ford Wheaton hasn't developed under him. There's been a lot of people saying, "Well, he can't develop talent." Bryce Ford Wheaton has developed into a really good player. You can't say he hasn't. The decision to bring in Graham Harrell was him, uh, and that got us JT Daniels. So I mean, he's made some good decisions and done some good things. And I don't want the progress we have made from a recruiting talent stand perspective to go backwards by firing him right now. Big Dan T, Couz's Corner channel member. You guys want to be like Big Dan T, become a channel member. You can do that by hitting the join button. I'm not sure if it's below the video now, but it is underneath my videos most of the time. He says, I have money on Troy. He's talking about the Troy Southern Miss game. Cody Parsons says, Houston is falling apart under Dana. Will be coaching at Houston. Will he be coaching at Houston? I think so, Cody, because I think he has a long leash because of his friendship with Fertitta. I really do. It's all about relationships in business and in life. And he's got one with the most powerful man in Houston sports, probably. Static Fur. Houston was a division. I get it now, Static Fur. I'm sorry, man. I didn't. Somehow I glossed over that. Fans is good. He won the Orange Bowl. I don't know what you're. To be honest with you, you talking about Dana? Dana. Okay, Dana is good. Yeah, but he did all of that with. That was Bill Stewart's team. He won that with. By the way. Now, does he get some credit? Absolutely, he does. But at the same time, Bill Stewart had recruited every one of those guys, and Dana got put in as head coach because of Oliver Luck coming in and making that decision. Neil Brown was talking about having depth in a year, so he knows he's not being fired. Well, I mean, even if he thinks he might be, he still has to look to the future. I mean, he can't just stop doing his job and assume he's not going to be here. He's got to continue to do it with the assumption he is going to be here. And I don't think, like I said, the only way I see him getting fired is if we go like 3-9 or 4-8 or basically anything under a 500 record. He might be at risk, but other than that, I think he's okay. Todd Withrow says, "Who's the best option to coach at Arizona State, Nebraska, and Georgia Tech? In your opinion?" I have some options. Actually, a report came out today. I may do a video on this if I have time. Deion Sanders apparently is at the top of Georgia Tech's wish list, but the person who wrote the article doesn't seem to think that that's a realistic job for Deion because Georgia Tech they don't know if Georgia Tech puts enough emphasis on football, and it may be too hard to win at Georgia Tech because our academic standards are so high. So it's going to be harder for him to get the guys he needs. Plus, it's going to be harder for him to have the facilities. It's going to be harder to recruit for Georgia Tech, basically. But because of the Atlanta ties, obviously that tied him to the job. But I don't know, man. That's a tough one. I think Bill O'Brien ends up with one of the jobs. I'm not sure which one. Probably Nebraska. It wouldn't surprise me if Charles Huff from Marshall is on the list because you got to remember he comes from he worked for Nick Saban, so he's part of that Nick Saban school, so to speak. I think he'll end up with. I think he'll end up with a Power 5 job eventually. Could end up with one of these. I think Jamie Chadwell from Coastal Carolina is a good name, a big name to be watching for. That's probably the guys at the top of. I think you got to look at Bill O'Brien. I think you have to look at Dion potentially. I think you have to look at Jamie Chadwell and probably Charles Huff uh, as the top candidates in my opinion. I mean, there's a lot of them out there that I didn't mention. That's just the guys off the top of my head. Silas says we have to give Brown through 2023 at least, as long as we keep improving. That's the problem, Silas. I don't know that we I don't think if you look at 2021 to 2022, I don't really think we improved. Well, I'm sorry, 2020 to 2021, I don't think we really improved that much. That's the problem. Uh, and this year, if we have improved, we've yet to see. I mean, we've seen some improvement on the offense, obviously, but because of the Graham Harrell and JT Daniels thing, probably uh, primarily. Uh, and then, of course, the players, like Bryce Ford Wheaton, those guys developing and becoming better players. And also the C.J. Donaldson has played his role. Oh, Justin Johnson's another one that Neil Brown recruited. Can't leave him out. But so the offense has improved now, but the defense appears to have taken a step back. So, which is another problem. So there again, I don't think we know yet. Just to be frank, we got to wait and see how the season plays out. Browns and Beer says, I think if WVU is able to reach 6 wins, WVU can have a potentially great season next year. Less than 6, and I think there will be a lot of bad transfer attitude around the program. Yes, I agree. I agree. Winning will keep players happy, will keep people from transferring, and I do think this team could potentially be absolutely loaded next year, especially if JT decides to come back, because he does have one more year of eligibility. Silas, if things work out, 23 in Motown could be a big year. Yes. K.E. Zoo says no scheduling probably wouldn't be easy, but think would be neat if West Virginia and App State played a home and home in the future, the Mountaineer Bowl. I thought about that. That would be kind of cool. And I have been to Boone, North Carolina one time. It's a pretty cool little town, actually. Static Fur, you didn't screw up. It didn't make sense. We have to have Houston come to Morgantown with Dana. It's going to be hard hit 500 this year. Hard to hit 500 with this schedule. It's going to be tough, man. I think they can do it, and I think they will do it, but it's not going to be easy. It's probably going to be a lot of close games. Silas, Houston will eventually come to Morgantown. Cody Parsons, how do you feel about the job Tony Mathis has done running the ball so far? Honestly, my honest opinion, I'm not a. I think Tony is probably the third best back on the team. Uh, I hate to say it because I love the guy. He puts in a lot of work. He's worked his tail off. But I just think he dances around too much, man. If you notice when he gets the ball, he can make every now and again he'll make a cut and make a guy look plumb silly and make a defender look silly. But sometimes he cuts. I feel like he dances or cuts when he don't really need to. I've seen him miss a lot of holes. Uh, I don't know, man. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying he's a bad player by any stretch of the imagination. I just think CJ and Justin have looked better, in my opinion, at least from a running perspective. Now, pass blocking, I haven't really paid as much attention to. Um, so maybe he's better than those guys at that aspect of the game. But from a strictly running perspective, I think he's probably number 3 on the depth. He's probably number 3 on the list. But I know he's still considered a starter on the depth chart. But I just haven't been super impressed with him, to be honest. Todd Withrow says, love our Mountaineers coups. Way I seen improvement against Virginia Tech if defense plays like it did against Tech. I think we went there. We can, Todd, but man, with our schedule, getting the guys to play that way every game. And two, we got to be real, Todd. Virginia Tech's offense is terrible. They're one of the worst offenses in the country, man. Yes, the defense played well. And oh, by the way, Aubrey Burks is back now. Aubrey Burks, I didn't realize this, but Aubrey Burks didn't play in the Kansas game. And he's been one of our top performing safeties. And he's back and healthy now. So that'll help us as well. So that's a big deal. Silas says Mathis also isn't a great pass blocker. WVU by 7 at Texas. I hope so, Todd. I just want to win, man. I don't care about how much. I just want to win. Guys, real quick, there's a live stream going on right now that I want you guys to try to support if you can, because I'm going to jump off here in just a minute. I've pretty much covered everything I wanted to cover. There's some guys I'm going to try to start a network with or have started a network with are doing a live stream right now at this YouTube channel. It's called the College Football, or it's called the Coast to Coast Kickoff channel. Uh, that's the link to it right there in the comment box. I ask that you guys please go support that. It's some good. A friend of mine, college football, Jonathan Lewis, has started this network. He's asked me to be a part of it. Uh, I obliged because Jonathan and I've done a lot of work together. Jonathan's actually helped me out a lot to help me grow my channel here, and he's got some other creators that he's bringing on as well. So please go check out that W basketball team, looking great. Yeah, Todd, I'm glad you brought that up. I do want to touch on that real quick. Uh, I'm mainly football, but I will touch on some W basketball occasionally too. Uh, Bob Huggins' press conference the other day, they asked him what he was intrigued about with his team. He said, "You know what? The ball actually goes in. It actually goes in." It was funny, but you know what? I love Hugs, but man, he says that almost every year. And then when they get in games, the ball don't go in. Big Dan T, thanks for the $4.99 super chat, brother. We have to score touchdowns in the red zone. Field goals will not get it done. Our DBs have to step up. Bingo. First off, hats off to Casey Legg. He played a great game last week. 4 field goals, like Neil Brown said. Casey Legg outscored Virginia Tech by himself. So, but at the same time, Texas is going to score a heck of a lot more points. And regardless, even though our defense played good against Tech, we're going to give up more than 10 points against Texas. I would almost put money on it. We will not give up 10 points against Texas. They're too good. So we've got to score touchdowns. I think we can, because I do think Virginia Tech's defense is pretty good now. I'm not going to. Their defense was pretty good, but their offense is terrible. Um, I don't think Texas's defense is all that good. They did hold Alabama to 20 points, which is a feat, but I think Alabama had an off day as well, which didn't help. But I do think Dante Steele and or some of our D line will be able to get. I think they'll be able to make some noise in the backfield. Um, and the DBs do have to step up. Charles Woods apparently, he's not going to be back this week, so it's going to be up to these younger guys. Uh, some of the things I've been reading about Jacoby Spells and hearing about Jacoby Spells is extremely positive. So far, he's been our highest graded defensive back so far. I think I read he's even one of the highest graded ones in the conference up to this point. So very excited about what he could bring to the table, along with Ajayi and McCormick, who's also playing. But those guys have gotten beat a lot. I do think they're getting better, and will probably get better with every game because they played at a lower level. One played at Colorado State, one played at James Madison. They're playing a much deeper level of competition now, week in, week out. So I think they will adjust and get better, but they better do it quick because this Texas offense is no joke, especially with Xavier Worthy, that receiver. Guy might be the best wide receiver in the league. I'm sure Bryce Ford Wheaton has an argument for that as well, though. But he can kill you deep. He's dangerous. Uh, Up here, John Waffle, HTP. H2P said Pitt is it. We're going all the way again. Okay. If you say so. Static First says Pitt is going to get their ass kicked in Morgantown next year. And then we definitely need the secondary to step up. Yep. That's it. Silas, what about Moo Moo? GBD said before the season he was a good. Yeah, he is good. He's really good. Travis Kenobi, a guy that Gold Blue and I have done some work with over on the Mark Rogers channel. Actually, I've had Travis on my own channel a couple times too. But anyway, he's seen Moo play in person, and I think he may even know him a little bit because he lives in Georgia. He lives in Georgia now, and his son plays some high school ball down there. But Moo's extremely talented. He knows the game. He's very smart. So I do think he'll end up being a good player for us. Right now, I think they've got him playing some safety. I don't know if they're going to keep him at safety or if they're just feeling a need now. But I do think we'll see him potentially more as the season goes on. But I think right now they're leaning more on Albie Burks, Davis Mallinger, Hershey McLaurin, and those guys that have some little bit more experience than him. I don't know that he's picking it up quite as fast as Jacoby Spells is. But maybe he is. I don't know. That's just based on what. I mean, obviously, Jacoby Spells seems to be getting a lot more snaps in the games. But listen, guys. By the way, before I go, I want to give a shout out. I got a new channel member this week, Dennis Haiti. Shout out to Dennis for joining my channel, along with Big Dan T, who's also a channel member, along with some other guys. One of the perks, the Texas West Virginia preview video I put out today. Actually, my members got early access to that video, so they were able to see it before everybody else by like 12 hours or so. or not, well, not, it wasn't 12 hours. It was about 8 hours, I think, difference. Sometimes I might even put up video up a day ahead of time. So, uh, special videos that I'm really proud of, sometimes I'll put them out a day early or several hours early for my members. Once in a while, I'll do a live stream like this, and I'll allow my members to come on with me and chat it up. And so that's just a couple of perks I have to offer for being a member here. You get your shout outs and such. Uh, also another perk. But anyway, guys, listen, I'm gonna jump off of here. I'm gonna hop over and join this. I'm not gonna be on the live stream, but I'm gonna watch and comment and participate in this coast to coast kickoff live stream once again. The link is posted for you right above. Let me find it again. Well, I can't find it. I posted the link. I'll post it again for you. Here's the link to the live stream, the coast to coast kickoff live stream. If you have time, please go jump on that live stream for just a few minutes. Support my good friends over there and try to help us grow this new network and this new channel. So, with that being said, guys, have a good night. Thanks for hopping on. Q Country Roads.